Learn how to empower more women to serve on corporate boards with Deborah Rosati, the CEO of Women Get On Board, on today's episode of the Executive Wins Podcast. Welcome to the Executive Wins Podcast, where senior leaders share their biggest wins so you can get inspired and grow your business. Here's your host, Gordon Shepherd. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Gordon Shepherd. And to get started, I really want to inspire you by sharing a few quotes from the outstanding leaders who have already been on this show. Like on episode 29, when Tariq Haddad, the CEO of Peace by Chocolate, said, "Peace by Chocolate was never just about making chocolate. It was about making peace, creating jobs, and showing the world what's possible when you lead with kindness." Or how about on episode 30, when Nick Nanos, founder of Nanos Research, said, "Be humble. Getting an election right should not be a big celebration. It's like celebrating whenever the plane safely lands. Delivering for your client should not be an exception. It should be your mission." I'm so fortunate to interview leaders like these every week. So I hope you take some time to go back in the archive and listen to the many inspirational leaders who have already been on this show so you can get inspired and take action. Another reason to check out the archive? Well, the Executive Wins Podcast is the winner of the 2025 Best New Podcast Award in the Quill Podcasting Awards. It's an honor that I'm really proud of, and I'm also grateful to you for these stats. The Executive Wins YouTube channel, it has over 11,000 views and more than 10,000 minutes of watch time. And that means it's making a big impact on leaders around the world, which is why I keep bringing you this show every week. On today's episode, you'll learn how to empower more women to serve on corporate boards with Deborah Rosati, the CEO of Women Get On Board. I also want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by the Executive Wins Workshop. In this high-impact workshop, executive teams learn how to reverse engineer past wins in a structured way so they can get more wins in the future. I recently taught this workshop at a conference for finance officials, and they got a lot of benefits from it, especially when I asked this question: how many people here have a wins list? Nobody raised their hand. So then I created an opportunity for them to build their own wins list. And now they have a tool that they can use to grow themselves and celebrate with their teams. So if you and your team want a highly interactive session to improve your leadership skills, profitability, communication, and more, then get in touch. As your instructor, I bring 25 plus years of experience and a proven system that you can learn to grow the overall results in your business. It's available in half-day, full-day, and customizable formats, and it's really good for team building and corporate retreats. There's also an in-depth version called Your Employee Wins, and this is when I interview people from all levels of a company to find out how they get their wins, and then I deliver a summary to the executive team. And because I'm not in the family, the results are real. So if you're an executive who really wants to find out how people in your company get their wins and then get analysis about whether or not those wins are actually aligned with your strategy, then visit executivewins.com/workshops to learn more. And now on to today's show. We are lucky to be joined by Deborah Rosati, the CEO of Women Get On Board, an organization that is dedicated to helping more women join corporate boards in Canada. You can learn about their work at womengetonboard.ca. In this episode, you'll find out why Deborah Rosati received an honorary doctorate for her lifetime achievements. You'll also hear about the direct impact that Women Get On Board has contributed over the last 10 years in helping to move the needle in terms of female representation on corporate boards to rise from 12 to 29% in Canada. It's an inspiring conversation with a passionate leader who is on a mission to serve others at the highest possible level. I also want to remind you that this interview follows a specific format that I created called The Anatomy of a Win to help you learn the strategy, work plan, people, operations, and results behind every business win that you hear on this show. I really do hope that you can use this approach to reach your next business milestone. And now here's Deborah Rosati with her executive win. Deborah, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Gord. Delighted to be here.
Well, I just feel so lucky to have you here because I've had a chance to interview you before. I've had a chance to see you in action at a conference, wowing an audience of hundreds of people with your education. I've got a feel for the deep, deep pedigree that you have in your business career and where it's led to this moment, this win that we're going to talk about here today. But there's a lot of people maybe that haven't met you. So if you had to introduce yourself, please take a moment to do that and let people know kind of who you are.
Well, I like to start off with a story because that really defines and shapes who you are. I wanted to be a businessman just like my father. And most people would go, but you're a woman. And I know you have questions on that, but I think that was instrumental in the direction I took in my career.
Well, when we have these people that we admire, our mentors, our parents, or whatever it is in our lives, they're very, very important. What was important about your father that made you want to take that direction?
Well, for both of my parents, they were immigrants, so I'm first generation. My dad came to Canada when he was 14 from Holland. My mom came to Canada from Scotland when she was 19. And, there was this Canada at the time was a land of opportunity. It was post World War II. My dad came and he had to work really hard. He's what you would call self-made man because he didn't finish the proper education because he came and when he was in, and they put him in grade 1 when he was 14. So he had to develop, he had to take night courses. He really worked hard. And I could just see, that level of work ethic, but also showing up and just trying to build and grow and do better than when he came to Canada. And so just started seeing him in business. And I really loved going to the office with him. I loved just seeing what he was doing. And neither of my parents defined me to say, you're a girl, you need to stay in this lane. It was, what do you want to be? Where do you want to go? You can do it.
Wow, what a great value set to get early, right?
Oh,
It's not right to be able to get that from them. So foundationally, you kind of know who you are. That would have helped you, kind of get started in your career. And please take me through a couple of highlights down that timeline as you kind of got started yourself.
well, I think to become a businessman, business person, what does it take? So I chose business school and then I chose a profession within that. I said, okay, door A is becoming an accounting professional. So I became a CEA. But I was early in my career. Did I love accounting? Not necessarily, but it was a means to an end. And I feel like that having that as a profession for myself gave me the courage and confidence to go into the boardroom, to go at any table, because I knew my numbers and I had a really deep understanding of financials. And that really helped me grow from being an accounting student to an accounting manager to a controller, right up to CFO as a professional CA. Took a company from ground zero to a very successful exit. And then I went into venture capital. But I think the common theme throughout my career was been there, done it, what's next? That was.
And what's next came up thankfully for us. And we don't have the 10 hours it would take to sort of pull it all apart, but we do hear this strong values foundation and then a strong set of opportunities that you kind of built yourself in a sense to take you all the way up that ladder. And the numbers people are the big winners in so many of those boardrooms, and you know what it's like to be in there, and you know what it means to have earned that moment, so that when your opinion counts, when you're asked for your opinion, it sticks for the right reasons because you can back it up. Which leads us to a little bit of what you're doing now. So there's a big anniversary that you're involved with right now. If you could just take me for a moment and introduce this big project that you're kind of involved with.
Well, 10 years ago, I founded Women Get on Board on the back of a napkin. And I knew that at that time, women were asking me, how did you get into the boardroom? How did you get on a board? And I knew I wasn't novel. But for 15 years prior to that, I usually was around a boardroom table, usually one, if not the only woman in the boardroom. And I thought, it's more than a coffee. It's more than a glass of wine. It's more than a dinner. I'm going to create a community. And so I founded Women Get on Board in 2015, We are celebrating our 10th anniversary this year. We have over 850 members across Canada. It's a community, and it's really founded on connecting, promoting, and empowering women to corporate boards. And I'll come back to those three pillars: connecting, promoting, and empowering. And so this year is a big year for us. And we are celebrating our 10th anniversary. We kicked that off at our summit in May, and we had a pinning ceremony, and we're going right through to a TMX closing on September 25th to a reception. And you know what? I'm really fortunate, the community behind us, whether it's partners, whether it's members, leaders leading in the boardroom, professionals that are governance professionals. We've been fortunate to build and grow and have such a supportive community.
Congratulations. 800 anybody, plus all of the impact that it's had over that time. Back of a napkin, you got this idea, you know there's a gap. What's interesting is your own perception wouldn't be that I think for you, it's probably sounded like work your whole life. Whereas there'd be other people that are coming through with different sort of female issues, and we've got, DEI issues, all kinds of things start to get into play here. Back of a napkin. Back then, percentage of women on boards in Canada, and then take me to now. And what do you think the impact has been of your group specifically?
Well, as I said, I love numbers, so data speaks for itself. So in 2015, not only were we coming out as in Women Get on Board, I founded it, the Ontario Securities Commission was coming out with this comply and explain regime for TSX listed companies, publicly listed companies in Canada. And so you had to have a benchmark. So in 2015, Osler's created their first diversity disclosure practice. And they did set the foundation. The number of women on publicly listed companies in 2015 was 12.1%. Fast forward to last year, the data will come out in the fall, so I can only reference last year. That number got to 29.8%. However, the year before it only marginally went up. So we've kind of hit this. We're almost at 30%, but we're not there. In some industries like mining and tech and life science, they are not as high as that. Banking, higher. And so when in a perfect world, for me, people have asked me, well, when do you think women get on board? When do you think you've done your job? And I would say when we get to gender parity, which means you're going to have 50% representation. And we know coming out of business schools and law schools and medical school, more women are graduating. And so, there's a pipeline issue, there's a confidence issue, but my work will not stop. The mission is strong until we get to gender parity. And there's data out there that says it'll take you well beyond the decade or the century. But I'm an eternal optimist, and I think one board at a time. And I like to think about the power of three. One woman on a board is token. Two women on a board is presence. And three women on a board is a voice.
That's a battle plan, right? Right. We hear that, and you're a numbers person, right? So we get 12% when we start to track the numbers, whatever it is, 10 years ago. Now we get to this 29%. We know that for businesses, statistically, it's better when equity and inclusion is represented. It's better for their decision making. It's better for all around for the people that benefit from their companies and all that kind of thing. And here you are with the battle cry, in a sense, to say, oh, wait a minute, I know one with one. Maybe we can get it to two, and maybe we can get it to three. And you're going kind of one board at a time. How interesting. So, but in the beginning, you just would have been someone running around with the back of a napkin, 10 years ago, and you may not have had a lot of influence. Since then, what are some of your proudest moments along the way to get it this far?
Well, proudest moment is coming into the 10th anniversary, because we talked earlier, just to be in business and to be sustainable and, pivot through COVID and continue to show up every day with the battle cry. I do say I fight the fight every day. So thank you for calling the battle cry. But I'm passionate about it and I believe in it. And I am an example, I am a role model, and I really want to make sure that next generation of women corporate directors have the opportunity, have the doors open to them. I always say, you get to the top of the elevator, you send that elevator down for someone else, and then we continue doing that. And so for me, my proudest moments are to get to our 10th anniversary, showing up and being able to beginning of the year, kind of map it out and say, okay, we want to do a TMX closing, put a proposal together. They were all in. What a great opportunity to support our 10th anniversary. We also have BMO, they're one of our national strategic partners. We have a BMO Celebrating Women on Boards program, which is honors women in the boardroom. So last fall, when I'm talking about coming into our 10th anniversary, we were doing our 5th or 6th year with them. I said, how about we do a 5-city tour? So we're doing a 5-city tour in October to celebrate women across the country, and we've added our Lifetime Achievement Award. So, I think being a visionary and thinking ahead, because you've got to have a team to execute, and we're going to get into that anatomy, but having strong vision and having strong conviction. And, along the way, you're going to pivot, and sometimes you're going to think, oh my God, what was I thinking? The swan that's graceful above the water, paddling like heck down below the water, but really being there, having the courage and the confidence to say, we've got it and we're going to celebrate it. And this is the year to do it.
Congratulations. It's super inspiring to hear not only the words that you're saying, but the way that you're saying them. And I'm reaching back. I think I might be listening to your dad a little bit in this. You know what I mean? You said you started there and then you got to put this lifetime together. And how nice at this time in your own journey to be on a very purpose-driven, uh, you know, mission that is having, the impact that it's having already on the individuals you're connecting with, but also the societal implications and just that leading edge to be a bright light in this area. What a great thing. So it leads me to my first question, which is if you had to describe your biggest win in the last while, what would that win be and how would you describe it?
Well, wins can come in many different ways. And I think foundationally, I say one of the biggest wins I had, and I didn't go looking for the win, it came to me. I got my honorary doctorate in 2023 from my alma mater. And I had a friend a few years before that had got her honorary doctorate. And all I said to myself was, I want one of those one day. Not thinking, I put things out to others, not thinking it would come back. It came to me. I was nominated. I got the call from the president of the university and said, by the way, and I said, excuse me, pardon me, what is that? And so that is a lifetime of honoring you for your contributions in your life's work, right? Of from professionally to community. And to me, I don't characterize it as a win, but I characterize it as a lifetime achievement of getting to that point and not looking for it, but it came to me. And so to me, that was a huge recognition and it really brought tears to my eyes. And to this day, I put doctor in front of my name because they said, this is honorary. You should be, you know, being identified and acknowledged that way.
Remarkable. We're head down, day to day. You're in the trenches. You're doing your work. You're going to your board meetings. You're whatever, doing all the things you're doing. You start a back of a napkin organization. You get 800 people to come along. You don't know in the middle of just simply doing that other people are ready to recognize that and see that. And how nice to get a mirror up and go, wait a second, look at what you've been doing. And it sounds like you made the internal transition to accept it. Is that fair?
Thank you. You picked up on that. For about 6 months, I have I have my FCPA, so I'm a fellow CPA. I've been recognized by my profession. I have my ICD.D, governance certification. So I get this, and I really had to sit on it and own it. And then finally, I said, "Okay, I'm going with it." But I can tell you, it took a while. It didn't feel right. It didn't feel like I should be called a doctor. I'm not asking you to call me Dr. Deborah Rosati. But when you asked about win and achievement, I think it definitely has been a pinnacle in my 40 years.
Well, that's great. And so what I'd like to jump into now is what I call the anatomy of a win, where we look at the strategy, the work plan, the people, operations, and results behind a win. And this is interesting. It's a lifetime win in a sense. So again, we can't go through whatever the minute by minute part, but we can kind of get to the strategy part first. Again, so we talk about what were you say maybe the values, the goals, the vision behind getting this recognition?
Well, it was a lifetime, but I would say in the last 10 years, my work for Women Get on Board has been my everyday show up, tell the world this is what I'm doing, but I know I'm serving a higher purpose by doing it. I'm not doing it for myself. I've had the board roles. I've served on boards. I've chaired audit committees. I've chaired I've been lead director. I am not looking for myself. I am serving others and giving. It is a higher purpose. So it's got that calling that you have. And so for me, when I started Women Get on Board, the vision was really, really strong, is to increase the representation of women on boards. That's the vision. The mission was to put a company together to connect, promote, and empower. And as I spoke about those earlier, those are the three pillars in which I run the business. Are we empowering? Are we connecting? And are we promoting? And if it doesn't fit one of those pillars, we're not doing it, right?
You
It,
must jump out of bed in the morning, I would think,
I
right? With
do. I jump out probably before I'm even awake.
because you got so much to do, right? There's just so much. There's a lot of road to pave here, and you've got it going. You've got momentum now. The recognition that came from this honorary degree. Anytime we have sort of a win, there's always with a strategy we have a work plan. There's sort of a start moment and sort of a how long it takes. Funny enough, this timeline here might be what is it, 40 years? You know what I mean? Like what would you say the start? What's the start point, and how long does it take to get an honorary degree? Is it 4 decades or how long?
Well, I guess it depends on the individual. Some take longer than others. I think there's no timeline. I think it's where you are. And what I do want to share with you, I want to pause for a moment, because when you talk about where are you and why did it happen, there's these three chapters in your life. And Gina Cody is a successful entrepreneur, engineer. There's an engineering school at Concordia named after her. And I was reading a book, and they were talking about these three chapters of life that she talked about. The first chapter is preparing for your life's work. So articling, educating, interning, you're getting ready to do your life's work. The second chapter is doing your life's work. So rising the ranks, ladder, going up the ladder, giving back to community. And then the third chapter is giving back to your life's work. And so when I read that, I was already giving back to my life's work about, elevating and amplifying that next generation of women corporate directors. So when I think about my work today, so when I've really been in my third chapter for many years now, because it is really a social purpose and it's about giving back to your life's work. And so the honorary doctorate, I think, is that combination of looking back and saying, you have been giving back to your life's work.
Funny if I love and thank you for the author and that eloquent sort of framework that's there. The Malcolm Gladwell, you have blown past your 10,000 hours. Let's call it 50 and 60,000 hours with another 30, 40,000 to come. Like in terms of, because this is nonstop for you in terms of how far it's going to take you for the remainder of your life with what you're doing here as well. Wonderful. So we've got strategy, work plan. There's always people involved in making something happen. You are a key driver. How would you describe, we heard a little bit about what you learned from your dad, but how would you describe yourself and your attitude throughout time to sort of get you to this moment and to get you to this win?
Well, I was thinking about this question about people. I think if your vision is strong and your conviction is strong, people will follow. But you also have to have very strong values. And when I started Women Get on Board, I put my own values first, right? Because I said, I can only show up. And if those values have been true to how I've grown the company, to how I've built the team, the first one is about being authentic. Because as Oscar Wilde says, you can only be yourself. The second one is basically, I'm just getting my notes here. I don't know. The second one is about exceeding beyond, like communicating beyond, right? Just don't communicate. But what are the steps that you can do to go beyond? And then I wrote them all down. Yes. Third one, be passionate in everything you do. Because if you're passionate, it's contagious and people will see it. But if you're not enthusiastic and passionate about your work, how are you going to get other people engaged? And the last one is being engaged and take initiative.
This is awesome. And so what we can do here, just for a second, help me out with an example. If you've met someone who's learning about Women Get on Board, as an example, and maybe there's someone you see them, they're 25 years ago, and they're you, in a sense, or they're coming up. They know they want to get there. They've got the attitude. How would you describe being authentic with them in that conversation? How would you describe going beyond in that conversation? How would you describe, just take me through those four things and set me up with something like an example like that?
Well, being authentic, I can only show up as myself. I'm not trying to be you, Gord. I'm not trying to be my father. I'm not trying to be Gina Kodak. I'm not trying to be anyone else other than myself. And I think when you know you're showing up as your true self and your authentic self, it allows you to be at your best because your best is only your best.
Wonderful. And then there's going beyond, which is sort of not taking no for an answer to a certain degree. You know what I mean? Or someone's hitting a limit and then going beyond. And then there's this ideas of getting into um, going even further with it as you go forward. We've got a really good sense of you. And thanks for being so well prepared with those wonderful anecdotes and being really, really clear. There's other people involved in a win, right? We talked about your parents as a starting point. Who are the other sort of key people that have been influences along the way? Perhaps they're coworkers, maybe people that you've mentored. Who are some of the other key influencers? And we can't get them all, but maybe one or two along the way that have been important.
Well, I think mentors are really important, mentors and sponsors. And the difference, mentors are those that kind of coach, advise. The sponsors just put your name forward and they say, yeah, you got to speak to Deborah. And I would say unconditionally, my mentors and my sponsors have all been men. I very rarely had a female boss, a female sponsor, not because I wasn't around women, but I was just in the rooms. So I had some really high bars to meet, and I always wanted to show up the most prepared. I wanted to show up that they were going to ask me to take that next opportunity. And I don't think I had no in my vocabulary. I think I have no in my vocabulary now because I just want to show up, be my best, do my best, deliver my best, and go beyond. And I had one boss in particular that told me, if you're going to say no, you have to give 10 reasons why you're going to say no. And I was in venture capital. I was saying no to a portfolio, a potential investment. And I was sweating. I was like, oh my God, I can't say no. And all he said to me is, well, maybe it wasn't 10. Say no, 5 reasons. Did that email. And he said, okay, thanks. So I think sometimes we sweat out when we say no, but if you give the reasons why, and then, or hear someone else, so I always say, when you're saying no to a board opportunity, who are the 3 other people that you can put forward?
Wonderful. So we can hear, if we get to this honorary degree, there's not just you starting, this isn't 19-year-old you know what I mean, that we heard about. This is you accumulating over the decades, these mentors, these sponsors, these influences that you've had along the way, the experiences that you've had along the way, and now this chance to be, building out Women Get on Board, the hundreds of women that you've influenced, the companies and their bottom lines that you've actually impacted by getting those women into those right roles. And then you can hear all the way along the sort of attitude adjustments and things you've been able to make as your authentic self grows and grows and grows. Can't wait to talk to you in 10 years because you're going to get even smarter and wiser. I can hear it the way that you've got sort of your own continual learning process as you go forward. Great. People involved. So we said strategy, work plan, people. Operationally, we got to get some things done. If we're going to receive an honorary degree, there's a few things to pick up along the way. You mentioned a bunch of them, the credentials. So, business school, ICD, you're a CA and you're doing that kind of thing. Any other sort of operational highlights along the way that you would kind of want to point out that have contributed to this body of work, this lifetime body of work that got recognized?
Well, I think you cannot. I think you picked up on a continuous improvement. So yes, been there, done it. Can we improve it? What can be better? Using technology to transform and if you're going to be efficient, you're going to scale, you're going to grow, you need to build in technology, you need to build in platforms, something that's, continuous, it's scalable. And so when you're looking at that, you're always thinking about operationalizing. Okay, I've got this. One area I'm very proud of is we launched our first mentorship program in 2021, and that was unique. It was matching aspiring women corporate directors with experienced women corporate directors. And I set it up. We are now into our 5th cohort. We've had 60 mentees through and 37 mentors, because sometimes mentors will stay for a second year with a new mentee. But always was, having the foundation. And then every year when we go to do the next cohort, what can we do different? How can we do it better? We look for feedback, but in order to be able to run it and scale it and continue it, is you have to have strong structure and strong foundation. And it's like building a house. If you don't have the foundation, it's not going to stand. It's not going to be scalable and it's not going to sustain.
And we know in these mentorship relationships, what I can hear is the reason that you're on the 5th and 6th cohort is those values that you talked about at the beginning are being infused. The mentorship ones can get too loose too quick and we can lose momentum. But the fact that you've actually demonstrated that kind of going forward is fantastic. And that's sort of a good operational highlight to sort of, be aware of in this sort of whole journey. Finally, we get down to, we said strategy, work plan, people, operations. There's results. There's quantitative results and there's qualitative results. A quantitative result is somewhere in there. There's a piece of paper that says Dr. Rosati. Is that fair? Like that's a quantitative, that happened. It actually occurred. It would be a quantitative thing. Any quantitative or qualitative results that you'd like to point out for this win?
Well, the life's work, I would say. So in the case of Women Get on Board, a quantitative result would be, the number of women that get on boards every year, we promote them, right? And so, the quantitative wins, like we say, over 75% of our members have been appointed to a board, and we measure that every year. So it's very quantifiable, right? And that helps drive that data point of the number of women on boards, right? The other data point that I'm very proud of is, if you take the TSX listed companies, less than 10%, say about 8.8% of the chairs of boards are female chairs. We can do better. Why are we there? So one of the things we created a couple of years ago, I'm always filling that gap. So talking to these women, it's lonely being a chair of a board. So we created a chairs forum. And that is only for women. It's a peer group, and it's for women that are either chairs or vice chairs, because it's about how do you lead and serve on boards. And it takes a lot to say, I'm going to take that seat, right? It's a lot easier to let other people. So when I think of that, if we can have impact on building that next generation of women chairs for boards, then we're doing it one chair at a time.
One board at a time, one chair at a time. You can hear the iterative, not quite startup. It's not a startup, but there's something about the iterative nature of reacting to the marketplace while you still have some basically forward momentum. There's, all good reasons to kind of keep going forward with what you're doing. How nice. Thanks for putting together a body of life's work that we can celebrate here and chat about from a wins perspective. And then also Women Get on Board, the mission-driven work that you're doing. If you had to sort of, have a comment, a final, it's leaders that listen to this show. If you had to talk to, I'm going to say a woman leader in this case, because that's where you're specialized. It could be leaders in general if you want to. What sort of piece of advice do you like to pass along to leaders if you had sort of just a few sentences to say to them?
Wow. To sum it up, I would say to have courage to speak up, to have courage to make change, and have courage to show up every day with your beliefs.
Pretty succinct. It's so good to have you on the show. I really appreciate it. If people need to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
LinkedIn, Deborah Rosati, Dr. Deborah Rosati. I'm there.
Thanks for throwing in the doctor there at the end. I can hear it's absorbed and it's all good. Deborah, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Gord. Appreciate it.
Connect, promote, empower. That is how Deborah Rosati and the team at Women Get on Board win every day. Thank you, Deborah, for sharing your lifetime win. Now, if you enjoyed listening to this episode, then make sure to check out our upcoming episodes, which include how to close a business, learn your lessons, and thrive in your next venture with Michael Basinski, the CEO of Buzzworthy Marketing. And if you're a leader who really wants to learn how the Executive Wins coaching session can help you to grow your confidence and inspire your team, then visit executivewins.com to learn how. You can also subscribe to the Executive Wins monthly newsletter to stay up to date on the podcast, live events, education opportunities, and more. Visit executivewins.com/newsletter to sign up. And if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe, and share it with a fellow leader. And don't forget to check out our resources and links in the show notes. And keep listening to the Executive Wins podcast for more inspiring wins that will help you to grow yourself, your team, and your entire business. Thanks for listening to the Executive Wins podcast. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe as we bring you more inspiring wins from outstanding leaders so you can grow your business.